On today's episode of No, We're Actually Scared, we're going to get away from the States for a little bit and get into a conspiracy theory, MK Ultra. I'm your host, Dusty Davenport, here with my co-host,
Johnny Paranoia. And we're going to go deep into this conspiracy theory, way back into the 50s, 60s, and 70s, where drug use was rampant. Woo. And mind control is real. Woo. MK Ultra.
Whoa, MK Ultra.
Oh yeah, this one goes deep, man. This one goes deep.
So we've been doing the supernatural, we've been doing the ghosts. It's finally time to get into what our government's doing to us.
And it's not good.
Yeah.
Well, from what we know, because they apparently stopped in 1973.
Yeah, completely just gave up on everything. No one looked into it after that point in time.
Well, MK Ultra is a program created by the U.S. government or the CIA during World War II when it was known as the OSS. And that was just like a strictly like intelligence agency for wartime. The CIA wasn't supposed to be around. Like, if you were not in war, we're not supposed to have an intelligence agency.
Yeah, what do we need intelligence for if we're not killing people?
Well, lo and behold, they found that it's pretty powerful. Information is knowledge and everything, and knowledge is power.
Insane that in 1953 we're thinking about mind control.
Like, yeah, you think about that. It's like, oh yeah, Bel Airs are on the road. It's a great time. Prosperity all over the place.
And all the government's thinking is, how can we get these people to do exactly what we need them to do?
Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts. Well, it all started. The program started in 1950, where they were trying to convince, well, I don't know if they were convincing them, but they were trying to gather Chinese Americans to send them back and like create like a super spy and send them back to China to gather information on China.
Makes sense.
That's how it all started. And then in 1952, U.S. soldiers were prisoners of war were captured in Korea, and they were interviewing them, and they were unsure. Because they were all claiming that they were war criminals, they should be charged as war criminals, that we used germ bombs in Korea, and the U.S. government thought that the Chinese or the Koreans convinced them to say all these things, that they were brainwashed coming back.
Part in germ warfare, as far as I know, at the very beginning. At the time I took part in it, germ bombs were referred to as duds.
Wild.
Well, the PSYOP is, it turns out nowadays that we were actually using germ bombs in Korea. So is this a double PSYOP going on? Like, it gets nuts. It gets nuts. And then it was Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke in the early days, and then it switched to MK Ultra.
Oh.
So the whole point of it is to have like a Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Okay.
So they want you to come in. We're going to do get a baseline on you.
And then we're going to flip a switch.
And we're going to flip a switch. And then when we activate that switch, you go into a state of amnesia. And whatever I told you to do, you're doing. You're carrying out.
Literal possession.
Manchurian Candidate. Literally a Manchurian Candidate. And then,
So the artichoke technique, I guess, is a technique that they used IV drugs and alcohol on foreign persons.
Yes.
To implant false memories.
False memories. So that's like, there's a doctor that we're going to talk about where that was his method, was basically wiping your mind clean. Completely don't remember your name, your parents, where you went to school.
Got to get the real baseline.
Just completely erase your mind. And his name was, where is it? Dr. Cameron. He worked at this place in Montreal called Ravenscraig Mental Hospital.
Ooh.
And that was another fucked up thing about MK Ultra, they did a lot of their testing on unsuspecting people,
Yep.
mental patients, people in hospitals, psychoactive people.
And didn't they start on children in summer camps?
Yeah, that was part of the program too.
149 sub projects tested on children in summer camps.
Everyone just thinks like MK Ultra is like, oh, the project. There were so many sub projects out of it that we can't even go over them.
We're still using drugs today.
Yes. Yeah, over 120 drugs were developed during this. And one of them ended up being Prozac.
And psychiatrists love throwing them out there.
Yeah, just dull your personality out.
Yeah, get you back to baseline.
Right? Well, anyways, let's get back to that Ravenscraig Mental Hospital where Dr. Cameron worked. He was like ahead of all these psychiatric boards all over the world. World renowned. He ended up being one of the psychiatrists on the Nuremberg trials.
Oh, jeez.
So there's your Nazi involvement.
Right.
Where when they were on trial, they were interviewing all these doctors that worked at the death camps, and they were talking about the use of like hallucinogenic drugs on prisoners, and
It's heavy.
It's
heavy.
Against the code.
Yes.
Everything wrong was told at Nuremberg, as you know,
right,
guilty
right.
and deaths were, and this guy ended up going back to Montreal to his mental hospital and basically did the same thing to his patients that the Nazis did to people in concentration camps. He believed in a 3-step theory of sleep therapy, psychic driving, and depattering.
Psychic driving?
Psychic driving. So the way he would start out with a patient would be extreme electric shock therapy, which blanks the mind.
Right.
You're talking like 20 days of electric shock therapy continuously.
Jesus.
The person, and then he would put you in a sleep therapy. Sleep therapy, he would keep you asleep. The longest person that he kept asleep was for 65 days. In a room, pitch black, nothing. Psychic driving now is where you would listen to a tape recording. Your mother's name is Beth. We love you. Your daughter's name is Sally. She loves you. You went to Harvard. And it would just be a continuous tape recording of either his voice or the patient's voice over and over and over.
So they're making a create a character, and they're just setting you up with a backstory.
100%.
Just playing EA Sports.
Yes.
Making their own guy over here.
Yes. It's wild what they would do. And then it would be redirected with more drugs.
Right.
More LSD. More psychosis and everything else involved with what they were doing at this hospital. 9 people ended up suing the government, and they ended up settling for the family members that went there. It was a terrible place.
I will say one thing about electric shock therapy is there's this huge notion, especially with us being horror movie lovers, and we love all these things, and electric shock therapy is always known as a crazy thing.
Right.
It's one thing that truly works on psych patients that need a reset.
Really?
Yes, it's actually a very effective therapy. You see it very frequently in psychiatric hospitals where someone will get electric shock therapy and then they become functional. They'll be completely gone. They could be completely catatonic. Well, they could be in a state. They get shocked back in. It's like a little reset of the mind, and they're functional in society again. Not over and over and over and over and over again for 2 weeks.
Does it really work with like a schizo patient where they're talking to somebody else in the room, and I'm gonna shock them and dull them and kill all nerve endings in their brain? I don't think it sounds great, dude.
It's not quite a lobotomy, though. It's not. I mean, you wouldn't give it to a schizo patient, but there are good uses to the point where I've seen patients make a complete turnaround where they are disconnected from society, they're gone, and this little reset through ECT, it resets the patient, and they're functional in society again. They're talking to their spouse. They're real people again.
I think there's a reason why they did get rid of psych hospitals.
No, this is still today. ECT is very effective. Yeah, very effective. Not for 2 weeks at a time, and not to implant false memories, but
yeah,
moving on.
Not to put people under amnesia and
yes,
download made up messages.
One night shock and send them on the road.
No, not at all. So another thing that they used to do was truth serum. And one of the biggest like examples of it were they went to prisoner. Like a lot of prisoners were also tested on and studied during MK Ultra. They used to do
Crazy the span of this this project.
But a lot of the real crazy thing about it is a lot of the hospitals and colleges have hospitals, well-known hospitals.
Right.
They didn't even know they were part of MK Ultra. That they were being funded by the CIA to do these type of experiments through like a shield of the army or the military or whatever. And they were carrying out these dosing people with LSD and without their consent, without knowing. Oh, hey, you're supposed to
Probably
sign.
some kid looking at one of these flyers on one of the wooden boards, and they're
Right.
like, "Oh, what's this study?
Right.
$30. Okay,
Yeah, $30. There you go.
take the thing." And
But
now
I don't
he's
even-
he's part of a psych cult.
But I think that was the thing. I don't even think they had you sign a consent form being like, hey, we're studying you.
Just meet us in the AV room. We're gonna do some tests.
We're going to have you trip out, man. There was one that was called the leaf room.
The leaf room.
Yeah, it was a room just with like leaves on a tree. So it looked like you were in a giant bush. And it would have you sit there and stare through like these off-framed glasses.
Right.
So there would be a bar in front of you, and you would be tripping on LSD, and then they would say that the bar through the glasses is not horizontal.
Oh, jeez.
So they would fuck with you that way and be like, "Oh, this is what the problem is. Like, oh, LSD is the
Oh,
main
my
cause
God.
to not see this." But the true serum thing, they were given to incarcerated sex offenders to try to make them confess to sex crimes that they weren't charged with.
So they're just trying to get bonus.
Trying to
trumped
get
up charges.
yes,
Or it's just kind of a way of like,
yeah. If you were a spy,
if I can like put those memories onto you and I can
Yes.
make you confess to things that maybe you haven't even done, just to add on. I mean, you're already in jail, you're already here for this, so
Right.
we're gonna get you on more stuff by making you confess to things that we're gonna tell you remember.
or if you're a foreign agent, can we give you something and you give us information? Oh, we're meeting for dinner, or we're having a meeting.
Right.
Can I give you this, and then you're telling me more information that you're not supposed to?
Right. Oh, yeah, just to get to the bottom of things too.
Right.
For people that did commit extra crimes that they just couldn't get people on.
Yes.
They could get bonus confessions.
Now this is all through like the 50s. It gets really crazy once the government gets a contract with one of the major pharmaceutical companies who are still around today, Eli Lilly, where they contracted them to make LSD. So just for their experiments.
We all know pharmaceutical companies all have our best interests at heart.
And the weird thing is, Eli Lilly now created Prozac. So that goes back to that.
So tell your aunt on her third glass of wine and Prozac that
Yeah.
it was originally developed for mind control.
Mind control, yeah. That's why we just watch the news nowadays and everything seems so real. Yeah, but like the crazy thing is they build a wall of it, like in your head, and like when you're under the trance, you don't remember anything of it. Like you don't remember the episode, and that was like a lot of people like in that psych ward too at Ravenscraig. People, when they would come out of it, they didn't remember going through the electric shock therapy or the 65 days of sleep. No one believed them. So how do you prove that when there's no record, no anything?
That's wild.
It's just
It's just wild that it's a flip a switch thing too. Like you never
yeah.
think those things could be real. You never think you wouldn't be in control of your body or remember anything
Right.
you've done. Literally flip a switch.
the mind's the most powerful, and next to the soul,
Right.
The mind is number 2. Like that's the one thing. It's like I have control over my free thought, my free emotion, my what
Yeah.
to think of a certain situation where you could wipe that, or they built a wall where you don't remember. Like,
Right.
that was another thing. It was like they were trying to do it with like agents that would go to like China or Russia or whatever. And if you got caught, they would build a wall in your head where you wouldn't be able to remember the information once it activated.
Crazy.
So it'd be a wall in your head and where you could never tell that information no matter what.
What's that movie? Was it The Cell where they go inside the serial killer's head? Like you kind of think about it like that. Like they can just get in there and change things and learn about things. Like
The mind is nuts, man.
wild.
And doing all these things is it's another level of medical fielding or
Right.
whatever, studying, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff makes you black pilled
Yes.
because it's just like if they want to, they can just turn things off.
Now-
and it's not just turn off your social media. It's not just turn off, you know, your money. It's not just turn off your property. It's literally turn off your being,
Yes.
your existence. They have the ability.
It's nuts to think. It's nuts to think about. Now, there's a guy called Frank Olson. He was working in the CIA. He was part of MK Ultra, but he was starting to act a little whistleblower-ish. We'll say that. And he attended a party where Sidney Gottlieb was head of the CIA and running MK Ultra at this time. Got a little weird feeling from Frank Olson.
Right.
And I guess Frank Olson was dosed with LSD at this party. So the next day he ends up they say, hey, you don't look right, you didn't seem right. Go
Right.
see our doctor in Washington. They send him to go see the doctor in Washington. The Washington doctor sends him back home to New York City, where he's staying at the hotel and commits suicide the next day.
Anytime someone recommends a doctor, especially if it's the government, I would go to a different doctor.
Yes. The government ended up settling with his family years later.
That just shows you they had a case.
It seemed a little weird for wrongful death.
Seemed definitely.
I think he was pushed from his hotel room. I mean, just to keep a secret, it's crazy the lengths that they will go to
Right.
keep a secret. And you know what? What's one thing that it makes me think of? That Octopus Murders
Right.
on Netflix.
Yes.
That doc. Now that's like a newspaper article or a journalist going in there
Yep.
trying to think of a situation or dig into a situation where he's not supposed to be digging, and he ends up going
Yeah.
to the next
Once you
world.
get involved, let's just say he doesn't live in the neighborhood anymore.
Yeah, it makes you think. So then it really like they had safe houses set up and like their major cities. They did like San Francisco, they did New York City. Like, so then you get into programs like Midnight Climax.
Yeah, that's a wild one.
Midnight Climax is where they used to have prostitutes go out to bars and pick up men and then dose them with LSD and bring them back to the safe house where they would do whatever. But the CIA was behind the wall watching and studying.
How do you think the CIA got this idea? You think they found they were just hanging out with some prossies and
Ladies of the night.
they were just like, hey, you guys think you could go grab some guys, throw them some of this, and
Well, that's another thing of mind control, sexuality.
right?
Like, I mean, if there's one way to get to information or dig into information, wasn't there just like a congressman that got caught sleeping with a Chinese agent like 3 years ago?
Yes. What do
Like-
they call it? MK Ultra sex kittens, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
right.
that the whole
Yes,
thing? Yeah.
yes.
Well, whole conspiracy.
And so then they started doing that. But now here's is the study on the John, or is it on the prostitute?
That's a
They-
good
you're-
call. Could
they-
they manipulate the prostitute
I
into
think it's
doing these things?
I think it's the manipulation of the prostitute. To be
right.
honest with
Or
you,
you get a double whammy. Why not check out both?
right. I'm sure they're
Yeah, if
studying
you're dosing
sides.
both, why not?
But it's that was one of them. So then, like, you go into like that San Francisco side, and basically the CIA was responsible for the counterculture movement.
Correct, 100%.
They had the contract with Eli Lilly, and they were encouraging like young med students from like UCLA to come into these like hippie houses or safe houses that they used to have
Yep.
and take LSD.
Right.
And it's just mind blowing.
100%.
That they like started this, all the medical things, and then you get into like the Tom O'Neill book, Chaos.
Oh, right. Charles Manson.
Charles Manson and their hippie family.
Right.
They used to hang out at like the medical center, like the free clinic that they used to have set up in San Francisco.
Yeah.
They were there and they would check in because his parole officer was like working there. And then like he was an asset too, I think.
Yep. Yeah.
He was
I
arrested.
mean, what did it take to get a $60,000 a year employee to get on the take with the CIA? Probably not much. I'm not gonna lie. If I was a parole officer and I was dealing with this all day, and the CIA
Yeah.
was like, "Hey, would you like dose this guy with LSD?" Well, you have full protection of the United States government. I'm like, all right.
You would do it? Oh man, I would run.
Yeah, that's true. You're involved. You might be a loose thread.
I'd be out the door, man. I'd be gone. He would never see me
I think
again.
you're a loose thread no matter what, though, if they brought it up to you.
Dude, I would be out of there. I'd be like, how do you know me? Yeah, so Midnight Climax, and that's part of one thing where they basically started that whole hippie.
How long do you think the CIA watches someone before they decide that they're okay to be an asset? Like, how long do you think they follow around a person? Because back then you didn't have social media. You didn't have things. Like,
No.
you would actually have to interview people around them without them getting there. You would have to sit and watch them. You would have to, like, learn that they're going to be susceptible to being involved with the government.
You think that they interview people. There's no way they interview people. They corner people to get involved.
Right. I understand that, but how long is the process of, like, vetting who they're
Zero.
going to go after is what I'm saying.
Zero.
You don't think they look into it?
Zero.
Like the parole officer, say he's on the take.
Okay.
You don't think they're watching this guy? They're watching like every parole, like all his parolees. They're watching how he conducts himself, seeing if he's susceptible to being like involved with the CIA. Like,
Zero.
no,
It's a guy that's, you're facing 3 to 5 for armed robbery, and if you don't do this, you're going to go 3 to 5 years in prison. I think that's what it is. I think it's cornering people. And,
but I still think like their vetting process to decide that they're going to go after that person. You don't think that's extensive?
no, I think it's
No, you think they're into mind control? They're doing all these things, and you don't think they're doing any research on who
No.
they're going to go after?
No, I think it's people that are in a rock and a hard place and don't have a choice, and you're going to do it and do what I say no matter what.
So their vetting is just to find the person in that
In the
that
rock and a hard
situation.
place,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Like it makes sense though.
Right,
Like,
100%, yeah.
like, how-
why wouldn't you take the
why wouldn't you-
the desperate?
Exactly. You're gonna get some person. Oh, I'm gonna vet this guy, and he has a family. Like, he ain't doing it. Like, I'm not doing this. No,
But out of all the people on death row, like you're looking at the 10 people. How long are you? Well, I guess if they're on death row, they're easy to watch because they're in jail. It's not like a.
didn't we just go over that?
I just like the idea of a guy in a stakeout and he's watching like a guy and he's like,
I don't think it's that in
I
depth.
think that might be the guy.
I don't think it's that in depth. I think it's we got this guy cornered, and he's fucked if he doesn't take this opportunity, and he's gonna do what we say because guess what?
Fair enough.
He's facing 3 to 5 or 10 years or whatever it is. It
True.
seems like that. They always have like that there's no left turn out of here.
Right.
This is the only path. But yeah, I think that's what happens. Now we're going to get into brain electroid experimenting.
No.
So there was a doctor, Jose Delgado, and it was in a newspaper. There's actually a picture of it with him, like he was wrestling a bull, basically. So
Okay.
He implanted a microchip inside the brain's head, and he would have a remote control, and the bull would be charging him, and he would hit the remote control, and it would just stop.
Really?
On a dime.
Just rewire it.
Just rewired it completely.
I'm done.
So they were trying to do that to people. And,
So how hard can it be for them to create a kill switch?
oh, easy.
Easy.
Yeah,
If
he-
they can stop a bull mid run.
And he also wrote the book, if you ever want to read the book, of Physical Control of the Mind. Like, that's his book that he wrote about controlling.
I always wonder about like that, like kill switches. Like
Well, you just make
you don't see enough. Like you wonder, like why does that guy have to get hung and shot 3 times in the chest? Why can't they just install a kill switch? I guess maybe something you could find in an autopsy. You're worried about covering your tracks.
Yeah, I think it's a little easier to shoot somebody than putting a chip in.
Yeah, fair.
Then you got to go get the body again. And
Fair. And then you're like, oh, where was this person? He was in
gotta cover
under
it.
anesthesia for.
exactly. Well, that just makes you think about Elon Musk with his microchipping.
It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Like, I'm not getting no chips in my head. But then again, you're not even going to know. You're going to go in for a basic surgery, and they're going to fucking implant one in your head anyway. So.
But think about it. If you've been a quad, like you're a skier,
Oh,
dude.
yeah.
You're a skier at 24 and you hit a tree.
Yeah.
I'm taking the chip.
Yeah.
Give me the chip.
But then again, here you go. You're backed into a corner. What are your options, dude?
Yeah. I can only move my neck left and right.
Exactly.
I'm taking the chip.
I'm taking the chip.
Give me the
That's
chip.
right. But if I have an option, I'm not taking it. Fuck you, dude. exactly how they find assets.
Yep. Back a person into a corner.
Exactly how they find an asset. So now we're gonna get into Jolly West.
And this is the craziest thing of the whole MK Ultra. This is the most interesting to me.
He was
So involved in so many cases.
well with everything basically.
Yeah.
Like,
Everyone comes back to this guy.
well, he started as he was in the military, then he went to med school, and then he went back into the Air Force as a psychiatrist.
Right.
And he worked at Lakeland Air Force Base in San Antonio. There was a lot of weird things with. This is MK Ultra era, early days of it in the 50s. The first weird story that he's involved with was a young airman Shaver was accused of raping and murdering a child.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Now, a little backstory on this, where the parents of the girl ended up going into a bar to get food. They left him in the parking lot. You think 50s. The 50s.
50s are a little different. Right.
You think about it, different time, different era. That nowadays that's not happening, but 1954, I guess it was happening. They left her in the parking lot. She was playing with her brother.
Right.
The parents go in, they get food, they come back out. Only the brother's there. Girl's missing. Girl's gone. Panic ensues.
Obviously.
Police, military police, everybody's looking for this little girl. 2 airmen end up seeing Shaver come out of the woods. And he's just standing there like he's in a trance. Completely dead-eyed.
Blank,
Nothing. Well, they end up looking in the woods right behind him, and they end up finding the girl's body.
Ugh.
The crazy thing is, though, Shaver is this clean-cut, no violent record, no...
He had a family. He had everything going
man.
for him.
He was getting medical treatment for migraines at Lakeland under the watch of Jolly West.
This psychiatrist connected to so many people.
This name just keeps popping up everywhere.
So there's number one. You have an airman murdered a little girl getting treatment for migraines from Dr. Jolly West.
And now I don't think we touched on it, but Albert Hoffman was trying to create a migraine medicine back in the 40s.
Right.
And he accidentally developed LSD.
Whoops.
Whoopsies. But that's what his original cause was, to find a cure for migraines.
Right. Yeah.
So, and then in the term
I'm still waiting. I could use a cure for some migraines, man.
Get some LSD, man.
I drink 7 cups of coffee just to keep them away.
Call Dr. Jolly over here. So that's the little basis, and I think that's what started all the testing and everything with LSD too. So then...
So number 1. Number 2, Jolly West.
Jolly West goes into... Now we're going to touch on the Kennedy assassination a little bit here. Now, Kennedy was assassinated by Lee Harvey Oswald. In
Allegedly.
Book suppository, right? Suppository, or whatever the hell.
Depository, I think.
Depository.
Yeah. Not up his ass.
What am I saying over here? I need to be drug tested. All this LSD talk, I'm starting to trip out a little bit. But anyway, so he was in the book Depository, and he ended up killing Kennedy. He gets arrested immediately.
Yep.
As he's walking out of his trial a couple days later, Jack Ruby ends up coming in and shooting him as he's walking out of the court.
Yeah, make sure to keep that mouth shut.
So, lo and behold, Jack Ruby gets a psychiatric evaluation.
Oh, and who does he go see?
Mr. Jolly West.
Number 1, the airman. Number 2, Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby. And the weird thing is, Jack Ruby had ties to the CIA and everything prior to.
Yep.
That's a whole other podcast to get into
Right.
the JFK assassination. But Jack Ruby is definitely a famous name that
100%.
Jolly West worked with.
Yeah, he was just so enamored with the fact that the president had been shot. He had to rush and shoot this man, and was just allowed to.
Yep. No, nothing.
Totally checks out. Nothing to say.
Nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. The other one is now Patty Hearst.
This is crazy.
Now this is a little lesser known. I don't know if anybody, if you're not into it or if you ever heard of it. There's a ton of songs written about her.
Right. Yep.
There's a ton of songs. But she was 19 years old. William Henry Hearst was her grandfather. The Reefer Madness newspaper man. Basically, he was anti-drug, made a fortune off of newspapers and paper companies and everything like that. But she was his granddaughter. She was living with her boyfriend in San Francisco, and her home was raided by the Symbionese Liberation Army. She was kidnapped, taken to a safe house, and put into a closet.
For something like a month and a half?
45
days?
45 days.
She's in a closet.
I guess they raped her. Brainwashing went on.
Yep.
At this place. Now, what do you know what the Symbionese Liberation Army is?
Symbionese Liberation? No idea.
I think it was some communist movement.
Right.
that was formed in San Francisco, and they were robbing banks, kind of a cultish type of deal.
Yeah, so MK Ultra connected to a lot of cults.
Yeah. And then she participated, like they videotaped her. There's a photograph of her robbing a bank.
Right.
With the rifle. Right.
And I think there was an article that came out in the paper that said she had joined.
Yeah, she joined.
She had joined the army?
Yeah, she joined it.
So you're talking about Stockholm Syndrome? You're talking about being locked in a closet for 45 days, and now all of a sudden she's a part of the army.
Extreme periods of isolation.
Right.
Everything like that.
So you're talking about mind control. You're talking about so even if they didn't use LSD, there's other ways to get into the brain and control people.
So when she was using the code name Tanya, I guess.
Yeah,
she
Tanya.
robbed the bank.
Badass picture.
Badass
picture of her in a bank with a like an AK-47 or something.
Well, Jimmy Carter ended up pardoning her, like prison sentence. She was like sentenced to 35
It was Clinton
years.
that pardoned, I think.
Yes, you're right.
Yes.
Jimmy Carter like reduced her sentence, was able to file.
Yeah, was able to write letters to
write a letter,
this
and
fucking peanut farmer.
She only served 22 months in prison for bank robbery, and then she ended up admitting to like a murder.
Yeah, people were dying in these bank robberies. She wrote a book.
Well,
here we go. So Jimmy Carter got her out early.
Yes.
Bill Clinton pardoned her
In 2001.
So here's another president being involved in some bank robbery, some little thing.
Is it MK Ultra? Is it just who your grandfather was?
Is he just friends with the newspaper guy? Maybe.
What, in 1928? Like, what the hell is this, Bill Clinton? Go figure, Bill Clinton.
Dude, the Clinton family's a whole nother.
Well, while she was on trial, though, her psychiatrist,
Jolly West.
Jolly West.
So we got Airman, we got Jack Ruby, and we got Patty Hearst all seeing Mr. Jolly West. Mr. Jolly West.
We got one more crazy one. You ever hear of the OKC bombing? Little homegrown terrorism on that one. Timothy McVeigh. After he was arrested, I guess he was telling them that they removed the chip from his butt.
What?
Yes.
They took it out.
Lo and behold, his psychiatrist,
Jolly West.
So this guy, he touches a lot of weird areas.
He's like Stan Lee cameoing in a movie, dude. He just pops up everywhere.
It's actually like Rob Schneider and Adam Sandler movies.
Yeah, it just pops up in the corner. Like,
You can do
he
it.
just had- you can do it.
You can do it. Like, if you see Jolly West, run away. Like, that dude, not good things around him. Not good things around him. Now, he was also they were going to, like, create, like, this is a crazy one, too. They were doing, like, the chip implanting.
Right.
They wanted to implant chips into sex offenders and it's called the UCLA Violence Project.
What?
It was actually signed by Governor Reagan to, like, implement this.
Jesus.
They were going to implement chips into brains of sex offenders and set them, like, if you could set a perimeter.
Oh, my God.
And, like, have this sex offender in this perimeter. And then they would have, like, if he left their perimeter, a police officer would go pick him up. But it never came to, like, fruition, thankfully.
Talk about 1984.
Yes.
Probably actually in 1984.
Yeah, but that was another one that luckily never happened.
Right.
And we don't know. Now, the weird thing was, like, talking about mind control and being a Manchurian candidate was the reason why I did this podcast this week was because of the Trump shooting.
Right. You gotta think that you always gotta look at the backstory of whether something's real. Always question everything.
Everything that's coming out about that guy is question marks.
Yes.
Now I don't know if you saw the recent thing where they're talking about the phone records of the guy in Washington, D.C.
Right.
That travels multiple times a year to come and see him in PA.
Just happens to come from DC.
Comes from D.C. like little odd.
Is Jolly West still alive? Maybe he's making the trip.
No, thank God not thank God, but I don't wish death upon anybody, but he passed away in 99. But this one's raising a little question mark.
You know the craziest thing about that one is, I mean, we go to concerts, you see a concert, there's 19 videos with different angles.
Everything.
You're at the Trump rally and there's no videos of this? There's like 3 videos of this assassination attempt.
They're starting to come out more.
Are they?
Did you see the Secret Service one with like them in their meeting room?
Right, yes.
And
Check
they're-
out Johnny Paranoia's Twitter. You'll be able to see.
Yeah, I post a lot of crazy stuff, guys.
Yeah. Please follow us on Twitter. Follow us on
Yeah.
YouTube. Watch these
YouTube,
podcasts on
TikTok.
YouTube if you're not watching right now.
Yeah, we put them on all of them. We try to.
Yeah, we're working on the video. We're gonna get the video up probably in a couple of months. Definitely, probably around Halloween time. We should be able to start getting you guys video.
Every week it's gonna get a little bit better.
Yep, the sound quality should be top notch compared to
Yes.
the last 4.
Yeah, we don't sound like we're outside anymore. And
Yep, there's no birds chirping.
no planes. But yeah, like there's a video of them actually shooting out the window, like the camera,
Oh, really?
not a gun. But they're shooting the video like out of the camera, and it's the roof, like where they like look down, and it's where he climbed up on a ladder.
Oh, Jesus.
And it's like, how the fuck did this happen?
Right.
Like, just
Like, I know you see some wild shit,
Incompetence.
like that dude with Dragon Ball Z hair doing the interview. Like, you see some wild shit.
that guy ain't real, dude.
But
That
there's
guy ain't real. That guy
But
ain't
dude's carrying a ladder, and I don't know, no one bats an eye. I guess apparently people did, though. Everyone was telling the cops. And,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is, like, beforehand, like, I guess he was photographed like 50 minutes before the shooting took place by the Secret Service,
Right.
and no one went up to him and been like, "What are you doing here?
Why do you have a gun and a ladder?
Like, why are you walking around? What's going on, man?"
Like, if I walk to Walmart with a gun and a ladder, I think I'm going to get stopped by someone. Or at least people are going to start running away.
Easily. Yeah, just imagine carrying a ladder at a like a anything political.
Why are you carrying a ladder?
How is that even allowed? You're
Right.
not even allowed a backpack or a purse to go
Right.
with that. This guy's got a ladder. Like, oh, that's nothing to see.
Nothing to see.
Nothing
here,
to
guys.
see here, guys.
Move along.
Nothing to see here.
But we really wanted to do this episode because I know we've been doing the supernatural. We wanted to get into a couple conspiracy theories and keep them separate from the rest of the podcast. But do the special episode. It really came up with this shooting because MK Ultra is tied to so many murders and so many shootings and so many just psychotic breaks.
Questionable people and questionable events in history.
And when you get into the conspiracy theory podcast like we do, you go down deep in a road. Sometimes you just blank out because you have no idea what these guys are talking about. So we're trying to bring this down to a kindergarten, 10 minutes of research
Right.
level
Yes.
where you can just get baseline. Maybe graduate from us, go listen to Tinfoil Hat, and then graduate from that and go to the people that are actually reading books.
Yeah. Hey, I read. Actually, if you want a good one on like the CIA, get the Devil's Chessboard. If you guys are book fans, get the Devil's Chessboard.
Yes, that's a good one.
Like that one goes deep and dark into government coups and everything. And if you're into it, that's the book to check out.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah, give us some likes, guys. We have 4 subscriptions on YouTube right now. I think we could use a couple.
4. 4. What's the number? What's the numerology with number 4?
I think 4's good. I know 7's bad now. If you get into
jeez.
7's bad.
Yeah, that'll be an episode too with the
Yeah.
numerology.
And then they go back and forth on 3. I like 3s. 3s are my numbers, like 3, 13, 33. I like those numbers, but it always used to be like the devil mocking the Trinity. But I think they reverse that in numerology, and they actually say 3 is a good number. And it's all a psyop.
All I know is 33rd degree Freemasonry is the highest level. That's the only
Ooh, I
thing I
didn't
know.
think about that.
Yeah.
33rd, the 33rd parallel or whatever.
Yeah, 33rd parallel, all that shit.
Yeah.
3 I know is kind of a number. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks for checking out this podcast. We appreciate it. Like I said, we're not deep into it, but we gave you a pretty good overview of the things so you can go deeper.
Hey, and if we missed anything or we fucked up anything, comment below. Let us know.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
Love to hear from you guys. Thank you.